Welcome to Motivational Mondays. Every Monday morning, I invite you to start your day with a motivational tip to implement throughout your work week. Remember that on this channel, we strive to help women, especially women of color, to become quality kingdom queens through faith, femininity, beauty, and lifestyle excellence. So it is essential to encourage and edify our queens with biblical truths and solutions to worldly challenges that drain our faith and derail our beauty and power in Christ. Today's motivational is about goodness. Before starting this motivational, please answer these 3 questions in the comments section below. The first question is, are there good people in this world? The second question is, what qualities constitute a good person? And lastly, is goodness something everyone can possess and own? I will give you a few brief seconds to answer. If you need more time, pause this video to jot down your answer in the comments or on paper if you want to be more discreet in your response. Have you answered all of the questions? Good. These are the answers that I have gathered for my questions. First answer, no, there are no good people in this world. There can be. We have the potential to be good people, but sadly, we are not. Second answer, I believe the qualities of a good person are complete obedience and reverence of God's every breath and command. And someone who lives and dies for God and God alone and doesn't move a single step without his say-so, which we are honestly incapable of. Last answer, we can possess goodness if we try to, but we can never own it. We're always tempted to act outside of goodness. Now, before you become upset at my answers, let me explain why being good is so hard to define and how assigning the phrase good person to others is overwhelming and unjust. First off, we have to identify what good means. Most of the time, when we think about someone being a good person, we think about how kind they are and how some of their behaviors and actions gives us a feeling of goodness, which makes sense considering the ideology of good is to be someone that people desire and in favor and in approval of. We want people that we can trust and count on. We desire people of honor and integrity. People considered good are most likely described as our heroes. Individuals like our police officers, our firefighters, our doctors, our military, our nurses, and our teachers. We also consider the man who throws himself in the middle of an oncoming car to save a child from being injured as a good person. Or a teenager simply helping an old lady cross the street to be good. If you believe that these heroes are your examples of good people, then you are well within your rights to believe that. Therefore, these individuals deserve the title of being good. However, although they visually display the role of a good person, ask yourself if they are perfectly good. The goodness that I am trying to relate here is a biblical sense of goodness. This kind of goodness is a state of being. We cannot turn it on and off when we want. It is just there, and it will always be there. This type of goodness is not about people's approval or desires. Sometimes it's not even what we can visually see. This type of goodness focuses on morality, righteousness, selflessness, and what is just. And no one possesses all of these traits without strain. After all, the Bible is clear about the ideology of good. No one is good. Various verses highlights people's inability to be good, but I will only stick with the one that I find extremely interesting. This one is when Jesus himself exclaims that even he is not good. At first, I didn't understand why Jesus would say this when he is considered the epitome of goodness. In Mark 10:18, after running into a man who called Jesus good, Jesus said, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except for God alone." At first, I thought, well, aren't you God? And yes, his identity is indeed God, but he is not the Father. Jesus acknowledges that there is a Trinity, but he is not above the Father, and that only the Father, his Father, who is also our Father, is the only one that is good. It's very confusing, but Jesus is both human and God. And because Jesus possesses humanity, he experiences the same temptations we do. He understands that life is hard, and you can lose track and lose focus on what is right. Remember that Satan also tempts Jesus. Jesus also cried. Jesus did get angry. Jesus hung out with sinners. Jesus was a societal rebel. Jesus just walked off without letting his mother and father know where he was as a child. Jesus broke the rules of Sabbath and even claimed to be Lord of the Sabbath. Jesus also asked God to save him from being crucified. He didn't want to die when his whole purpose was to come to earth to die for our sakes. You see, these are all human characteristics and are not examples of being good if you really think about them. So it became clear why Jesus would say that he was not a good person. Now, there is more to this verse than just that statement. Jesus is not saying that he is not a good person, that he is not the only person that is not good, but that all of us are not good people. And he doesn't say this to be rude or nasty about it. He says it because it is true. He gives us the reasons as to why it is true. Let's listen to the rest of the verse. You know the commandment: you shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not give false testimonies, you shall not defraud, honor your father and mother. We all know what kind of things he is listing off here, right? And how many of us have already broken many of these rules? How many of us lie, even if we believe it's just a white lie? How many of us have taken something that wasn't ours? How many of us have hurt our mothers and our fathers? Hopefully, none of us have murdered anyone. But how many times have we thought ill of someone or hated someone in our minds and hearts? Even considering it also damages our spirit. Then again, have we really not murdered if we squashed a bug or planted baits for rodents? Just a silly thought that I had. How many of us have acted selfishly? How many of us schemed to get what we wanted? How many of us neglect time with our husbands and children because of our need and desires? How many of us have made promises we couldn't and didn't want to keep? How many of us have fornicated, committed adultery, indulged in pornography, agreed to and associated ourselves with things we know we aren't supposed to? How many of us accept things because that is what society tells us to do, and because we don't want to become outcasts? How many of us live, eat, and breathe for money? How many of us are stingy and hard-handed with our money? Refuse to help a stranger with our money. Refuse to tithe with our money. Withheld and hoarded money. How many of us have made money, people, places, and things our idols? How many times have we denied Jesus, forgotten to pray, forsaken the fellowship, discarded our Bibles, displayed ungodly character? These are not good things, nor will they ever be. But we continue to indulge in them, whether willingly or unwillingly, because we cannot keep the nature of goodness in our hearts. Now I know what you're thinking. If I'm not good, then what am I? Because I'm definitely not evil. If I can't be good, what's the purpose? What is the point of all of this? First, we must realize that we aren't good people, and we need to stop telling ourselves that we are. I understand that some of us are not murderers or sexual, physical, or emotional abusers. I know that we are not what people consider evil people. And there are some truly genuine evil people who are just simply lawless. And we understand that that is not us. But you also have to understand that we can and will make wrong and unhealthy decisions. The goal is to realize that we aren't good, but to at least strive for that goodness. Even though Jesus said he wasn't good, he certainly wasn't evil. He also wasn't in between good and evil, as if he was living by a scale. He understood that practicing and embodying goodness was never ending until he was reunited with the Father. He sought goodness and demonstrated how we should be good. He hung out with sinners, but he didn't sin. He cried out for God to save him for crucifixion, but he still honored his role and died on the cross. Satan tempted him, but he honored his Father's words and obeyed the Father. Jesus cried, but also prayed and got up to move forward. How many of us can be tempted and influenced by these things and still be obedient and willing to God the Father? Police officers can restrain evil, but also make terrible choices and decisions. Our doctors cannot save every patient, and teachers cannot teach our children everything that they need to know in life to succeed. A man can save a child from incoming traffic, but what happens to him if his soul is never saved? We all have the potential to be good and heroic, but what good is it if we can't comprehend what is really good? Jesus has already acknowledged what is good. God alone is what is good. Jesus is the example of goodness. Therefore, we must obediently follow God to become good people. A life of goodness and one in which we willingly and obediently strive to be good, knowing fully that we will never achieve goodness until we are with the Father. It is not a disappointment when I say this, but it is a privilege and great joy that we should fulfill each and every day. So, this week, my queens, let's obediently and willingly strive to be good. To be good is to know that we are not good people, but we strive to nurture and hone the characteristics of goodness so that we will not stray from God's words and instruction. Aspects of goodness require us to become selfless, righteous, biblically moral, just, law keepers, faithful, rebels of society's influences, and followers of Jesus Christ. Always remember that Jesus is our example. Well, queens, that's all that I have for you today. So go out and have yourself a majestic, Christ-filled day.